Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.
It's a Tuesday and it's the Court of Public Opinion, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Peter Clayton is behind the camera. Pete, the other day, it wasn't this week, it was last week when you tacked that song on the end, which was the dance.
Yes.
Gee, I meant to tell you, I thought that was fantastic. Because you make more of the chorus line, which is the really pretty part of that song. I thought that was great. And yesterday's song was great. What are you going to do today? We'll put another one on today?
Well, if you'll allow me to, yes.
Please, I allow you.
Yes, it's a song that, I lost my partner 4 years ago.
This is not a dictatorship, it's a collaboration.
Okay. The song is The Shores of Holdfast Bay.
Yeah?
And it's about Deb, who I lost 4 years ago. So it's a song for her. It's a pretty song.
Good. I love song. And you're getting a lot of interesting response too from people overseas, because this goes absolutely everywhere.
Yes, I'm having an incredible response through a songwriters group. And I've always thought that my music is better suited to America than here, because it's more the country or folk country, along the lines of Gordon Lightfoot, that sort of thing.
Well, there was a time when folk music was really incredibly popular. I can remember as a teenager standing on windswept New South Head Road in a line of people who would have to go for half a mile waiting to get into the Troubadour.
Yeah, that's the 60s, the late 60s, early 70s.
To sit on a hard bench and drink not terribly great coffee and listen to people sing folk songs.
They were great days.
And I think they will come back, because those songs that have a message and a soul and a heart have got to come back, really. I mean, they're just the sort of the senseless stuff that is, I don't know, it must be sort of like the activist music of the streets of New York. Gangland stuff. I mean, that can't be resonating with Australia's young people. I don't understand. Hip-hop and all that stuff. Anyway, be that as it may, we will look forward to your song.
Thank you.
We're broadcasting from the garage. Speaking of the garage, Pete, I sent you a photograph of one of my most favourite cars ever. I have one over there, which, I think it's a 64 model of the Volvo P1800. And mine is a white one. I sent you a picture of a red one that is in fact the most travelled car in the world. And it still looks like it just is sitting in a showroom. It looks absolutely wonderful. It's the same age as mine. Mine hasn't travelled that sort of distance, but have a look at the picture. I think it's 2 million miles. It has travelled 2 million miles, and it shows no wear, no tear. It can do another 1 million miles. I mean, when Volvo made this car, not only style-wise, but from a point of view of engineering, they absolutely nailed it. I don't know why a company, well, of course Volvo isn't owned by Volvo anymore. I think it's owned by the Indians or the Chinese. But the P1800 is the most beautiful design, and from an engineering point of view, it has been proven by the test of time. Anyway, that's enough of that. But will you throw that up?
We'll put it in here.
Put it in here. It's just a lovely looking car. Now, for the first time that I can remember, the parents of a criminal, in this particular case a mass murderer, but it could be, I guess, any sort of crime, The parent has been charged and tried and found guilty over her son's actions, his crimes. You see, he shot dead fellow students at the Oxford, Michigan High School. His mother's name is Jennifer Crumbly. His name is Ethan. Well, Ethan's mother now faces jail time. Somehow, the jury found her responsible for his crimes. The jury said yes. The father's going to be tried later. This is amazing. There was something about them allowing him to have a gun. Well, my mother, when I was 12, we were talking about this around the dining room table last Friday, my mother allowed me to have a .22 caliber rifle. It was a repeating rifle, but it was a bolt action, single action rifle. I was 12. No license. I never killed anybody.
I was 10 when I got mine.
You were 10. You see, those were the days. And we did not run around the place killing people. In fact, as a teenager, I can remember cadets. We would regularly, because we were in charge of our .303 rifle, we would travel on the bus and the train, going home in our cadet uniform after parades, etc. We would have our kit bag, we would have the .303 rifle over our shoulder, the bolt was in the gun. People didn't scream and jump off the train or the bus. You see, it's something about the times in which we find ourselves and the people around us. That's the problem, not the guns. Parents to be responsible for the actions and the bad deeds of their children. Now, a lot of people might think that's a good idea. And at times I think I probably would agree with you. The wrongdoings of children. This would cause parents to be a lot more vigilant, wouldn't it? But it puts an incredible new pressure on parents, and indeed others. You should have known. You should have known. My God, what a Pandora's box that opens. Law is based on precedent. Can you imagine where this could go? Maybe you're saying to me right now, under your breath, this is where it should go. If more parents took more interest in the behaviour and actions of their children, maybe the streets would be safer. Now, throughout this country on the Nine network, 60 Minutes, the program last night carried a segment on the miracle weight loss drug Ozempic. Obviously a shock horror take on the subject. Well, I mean, that's their stock in trade. My layman's understanding is that this drug has been around as a treatment for diabetes for 40 years. Perfectly safe and approved for about 40 years. But it does signal the end of the weight loss, diet, exercise industry. And that's the story, because that's a multi-billion-dollar business. Why I say this, and I have no medical stance from which I put my argument, why I say this is my doctor prescribed Ozempic for me. I think it was about 99 kilos. And that was about 9, maybe 10 weeks ago. I'm now 78 kilos. I want to get to 76 because I was 76 or 12 stone most of my life, and I want to get back to that. But I watched 60 Minutes. I understand where they're coming from, but I will go with my gut, or my lack of it, if you understand me. And here's one out of left field, far left field. Those men who take Viagra, you know, this is the erectile dysfunction drug, those men who take Viagra are far less likely to be afflicted with Alzheimer's. Now, there are a few lines that I could think of here, but I think I think I'll just leave them alone. Yes. Response time for ambulances in South Australia, ambulance services, worst in the nation. Worst in the nation. That should be enough to get the ambulance union fired up, but perhaps not. Perhaps not. A tragic accident about 2:30 last Wednesday afternoon in the North Adelaide parklands, just there near Memorial Drive, which is a beautiful part of our city. A young woman, a student, I think from Indonesia, living in Adelaide on a run. She was sitting under an old spreading gum tree. A lovely way to spend time on a sunny afternoon in our beautiful city. A branch breaks from high above, crashing to the ground and killing her. A truly terrible event. I haven't heard anyone talk about this, but I have lived in this forest of mine for a lot of years, and I know that branches fall. Sometimes I've learnt that through bitter experience. Not fatal, but bitter, expensive. It's nature. But the real danger happens when we have a hot day, as we did going back a few days. Then we have a cooler day. It's very common that gum trees will drop their branches. I don't know why, but I've seen it so many times. Something to do, I guess, with the sudden change of temperature. One day very hot, the next day cool, then crash. I don't understand it, but I know it happens. I see it up here all the time. So be careful. Be careful. But you'd have to sort of say God's will, because the chances of that happening would be so remote that this young girl would be literally in the wrong place at tragically the wrong time. An interesting moment on 7:30 on the ABC, the Prime Minister was asked about his failed voice referendum. I said an interesting moment. It was actually an enlightening moment. He said, "We will find other ways to achieve what we want." I carefully noted his words. We will find other ways to achieve what we want. But clearly it's not what the people want. Or doesn't that bother you? Why didn't the journalist pick him up on that? I couldn't believe the arrogance of the Prime Minister and the ignorance of the journalist. What is it about no that this man doesn't understand? And that goes, frankly, for Peter Malinauskas and other premiers, Labor premiers around Australia, who want to introduce this voice through the back door in a legislated form, state parliament. You do it at your peril. Corflutes, speaking of elections and so forth, will be banned from our streets here in South Australia. Terrific, I say. Pete, did you ever like the corflutes?
No, I hate them.
Crazy stuff. Expensive and visual pollution. And I don't believe they would have changed one single vote along the way. Although, you know, I suppose you could zoom in on a particular issue if you wanted to. All that effort and money, and for the losing side of the election, fairly depressing to get up there and tackle the task of taking them down the next morning. What's the point? Anyway, they're gone. I'm not even sure whether they... Frank Pangello was a guest. The Honourable Frank Pangello from the Upper House here in South Australia was a guest at the dining room table last Friday, and he said, oh, you can use them for specific things, and they can be fairly effective if you're selective and careful. But he agreed it was just a wasteful, silly thing, and not something commonly found around Australia. Something else we did on Friday was talk to the guys from Pure New World, a company that will revolutionise, I certainly believe what he says, revolutionise construction. It's a great story. They take toxic soil, even toxic soil with this terrible PFAS thing in it, which presents an enormous problem to dispose of. They can take this soil, and with polymers and a particular process, they can turn it into construction products. We'll watch that one with interest. We've yet to see the ACCC inquiries into prices, which will be very interesting. There are actually 4 inquiries going at the moment. But we do have the Allan Fels ACTU price gouging inquiry results, and yes, pretty much as you would expect, it's not inflation that is causing higher prices altogether. It's corporate greed. Corporate greed. Professor Allan Fels' long-awaited report on the behaviour of banks and supermarkets, insurance companies, airlines, and of course electricity companies, singling out AGL in particular, and big business generally. AGL is interesting case. Despite the wholesale cost of electricity halving, AGL profits jumped 359%. 359% to almost $400 million. What would you call that? Why weren't lower costs passed on? I can only assume they didn't have to. Isn't that the problem, Professor? We probably didn't need an expensive inquiry to tell us that prices are too high and that there are companies who are exploiting their market power. They are taking advantage of us, are they not? I want to know just what you're going to do about it. You know, your report can go and sit on a desk or a shelf and gather dust. We need some action, don't we? Oh, more competition, he said. More competition. More competition. Okay. So you do to other businesses what you did to radio and television. More stations. Sounds like a good idea. More choice. Now we have too many stations, the same number of sponsors, the same number of customers, the same number of listeners. No one has any financial critical mass to make the business profitable anymore. The result is falling standards and corporate failures. As a test market, which of course is what Adelaide has always been famous for, turn on your radio and listen. Happy now? Most of our once successful, wonderful, local radio and television stations now come out of the eastern states. No, there must be a better way to make people behave themselves and stop gouging and profiteering. Anyway, it's been an interesting time, I can tell you. I look forward to your company, by the way.
Dates?
Oh yes, we're going to do dates. I look forward to your company next Friday morning when we'll be around the table taking calls and having interesting guests. And one little story I'll leave you with. It's more of an anecdote, I guess. We've been banging on about these Taipan helicopters that we acquired at great expense, and for some strange reason the what can I tell you, the defence powers that be decided that the best way to remedy the problem was to disassemble them, bury the bits, and go and buy new helicopters. A whole bunch of Air Force I gather they're retired Air Force personnel, are petitioning the government to allow them to, as a volunteer group, reassemble the helicopters, refurbish the Typad helicopters, and ship them off to Ukraine. And to my absolute amazement, these wonderful former experts in avionics and aeroplanes are having a hard time convincing the bloody government to do this. They would rather pay to have them disassembled, we're talking 70 helicopters, disassembled and the parts buried rather than restored and sent to Ukraine. Now I know that they're going to buy all the Black Hawk replacement helicopters at huge cost, but for God's sake, you know, it astounds me. It astounds me also that that story doesn't get more publicity. It's a great story. Anyway, we'll probably say more about that. I'll try on Friday to get some of these volunteers to talk to me about what they want to do and all of the obstruction that they're running into and how these people can argue with their perfect logic, be that as it may. Let me leave you with a quick word about one of our sponsors, the wonderful old Rising Sun Inn, which is on Bridge Street at Kensington. Grant, who has owned it for years, and Jim Elder from Elder's Fine Art Gallery, we were talking about them yesterday, are our sponsors for the Court of Public Opinion. If you are here in Adelaide or you're visiting Adelaide and you're looking for a wonderful atmosphere to have a terrific lunch or dinner, it is the oldest inn or roadhouse in South Australia, and probably Australia. Well, it's 1845, wasn't it, Pete?
Yes, yes.
1845. It's not far from the city. It's a little gem. It's almost hidden in this little tranquil Bridge Street at Kensington. The building oozes old world charm. It's a warm, inviting atmosphere. The food is beautiful. They've got great art on the walls in winter, open fires everywhere, air conditioned, of course. Now, dinner is Monday through Saturday. Lunch is Thursday through Sunday. I've been going there for, 30 or 40 years. It's beautiful. 5 or so different spaces available in various configurations. You can have functions, events, weddings, birthday parties, cocktail parties, stand-up, corporate get-togethers, you name it. Indoor, outdoor, food is great. Don't know what else to tell you. Oh, a great selection of wine. And the best thing to do is to ring them for a booking. That's 8333 0721. 8333 0721 to make a booking. The Rising Sun Inn in Kensington. It's a history lesson, apart from a great day or evening out, or even dropping in for a drink is what I often do. Let Grant know that I suggested you go along and enjoy it. He'll be pleased to hear that the advertising he does in the Court of Public Opinion is working. Was that wonderful line? I can't think who it was. Somebody said about his advertising, I know it doesn't all work. I know only 50% of my advertising works. I just wish I knew which 50%. You know what to get rid of. It's true. It's true, it's true, it's true. February the 13th, the moving picture projector was patented. That changed the world. 1895 on this very day. You could say it's almost happy birthday to the moving picture, couldn't you? Which came first, the moving picture or the projector to show it? I don't know. Joseph Banks, the English botanist and naturalist who accompanied James Cook on board the Endeavour, was born in London in 1743 on this day. The longest sentence was published by the New York Times on this day in 1981. It was 1,286 words. I've got no idea what it was about. The Marquis de Sade, arrested without charge, imprisoned 1777, the man who gave his name to sadism. Waylon Jennings. Pete, do you like Waylon Jennings?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Waylon Jennings, American country singer and guitarist. I'm a rambling man. He dies of diabetic complications at just 64 years of age on this day in 2002. The original Peanuts comic strip appears in newspapers one day after Charles M. Schulz dies. This was the last original Peanuts comic strip, this day in 2000. The first appearance of cholera in London, 1832, on this day. Kim Novak, whose real name was Marilyn, American actress, Vertigo, Of Human Bondage, born Chicago, Illinois, beautiful-looking woman. 1933, Harrison Ford involved in a near miss while flying a plane at John Wayne Airport in Orange County on this day in 2017. Peter Gabriel, English rock vocalist and composer. Born in Surrey, 1950. Allied planes bombed Dresden, creating a firestorm resulting in the death of 22,000 people. That was this day in 1945. And they tell me that all of that resulted from the fact that, and Hitler was absolutely angry, furious, that these bombers went and bombed London, but that opened the door. So the story goes. William Shockley, American physicist who helped to invent the transistor, won in fact the Nobel Prize in 1956 for his invention of the transistor. He was also known for his racist eugenics views. Born in UK, 1910. Stockard Channing, American actress. Grease, Big Bus. That's bus. Big Bus, Without a Trace, born in New York in 1944. Mata Hari is arrested in Paris on suspicion that she was a German spy. That was in 1917. I think she spied for everyone, didn't she? Mata Hari. And Andrew Sharp Peacock, my father-in-law, Caroline's father, born in 1939. ACGCL, which is a Japanese knighthood, I believe. He died the 16th of April, 2021. Leader of the opposition, 83 to 85, and again from 89 to 90. And many people say that Andrew Peacock was the best Prime Minister we never had. I would agree. I thought he was a marvellous man. Anyway, I'm prejudiced on that. As I am with Pete's music, thank you very much for viewing the Court of Public Opinion. I'm Jeremy Cordo. Peter Clayton will now sing you a song, Believe in Yourself, and we'll talk tomorrow here in the Court of Public Opinion.
As I write these words for you, I can feel your spirit here with me as I gaze out to the blue. There's a gentle breeze in my face, deep down I know it's you. On the shores of Holdfast Bay we love, and I could not have wanted more. My heart will go on, forever yours. Con Dios, mi amor. I'm at peace here and close to you, recalling memories of days past, sifting sand through my fingers like sand through an hourglass. And as time and the years pass by, to our love I will hold fast. On the shores of Holdfast Bay we love, and I could not have wanted more. My heart will go on, Dios, mi amor. Shores of Holdfast Bay we loved, and I could not have wanted more. My heart will go on, forever yours. Ve con Dios, mi amor.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.